The unbroken song. When love refused to end. The world thought it had heard the last note. After the fire, after the silence, after the dawn, people believed the story had finally reached its closing line. Newspapers wrote obituaries for a love they never understood. Broadcasters declared, "It is over." Their voices are gone. But love has never followed scripts written by power. And music has never bowed to silence. That night, Seoul was restless. Screens glowed with empty promises, radios repeated hollow songs. Yet somewhere, hidden in the undercurrent of the city, a sound began, soft, fragile, almost a memory. It was a guitar. One that had been broken before, strings replaced too many times to count. And it was held by hands that trembled not from weakness, but from carrying too much truth. Jungkook. His voice entered like a wound reopening, raw, imperfect, yet alive. They wrote endings for us. They buried our chorus. But endings are lies. Love doesn't stop singing. And then, another voice, deep, weathered, infinite. Taehyung. Every silence hides a note. Every scar hides a song. And tonight, we refuse to end. No stage lights. No banners. Just their shadows cast by a single lantern, swaying in the midnight wind by the Han River. The world saw it not on television, not on corporate streams, but through the shaking hands of fans who happened to be there, capturing history without knowing it. The song grew. It was not rebellion. It was not prayer. It was something greater, an unbroken vow. They broke our microphones, but they cannot break our chords. They broke our names. But names are not who we are. This song is unbroken. As long as you hear. As long as we sing. We remain. Crowds froze. Some screamed. Some cried. Some just pressed record, as if afraid even blinking would erase the miracle before them. And once again, hashtags ignited the night sky. Hashtag unbroken song. Hashtag love sings forever. Hashtag we remain. From Buenos Aires to Manila, from Cairo to Berlin, voices rose in unison, fans singing their unfinished lines, choirs forming in streets, cities shaking not from thunder, not from fire, but from music. Governments tried to call it dangerous. Corporations tried to silence the streams. But it was too late. Once a song escapes into the wind, no one can cage it. Jungkook wiped his tears mid-song, his voice breaking on the last verse. He whispered, not to the crowd, not to the cameras, but only to Taehyung. "If this is the last song I ever sing, would it be enough?" Taehyung looked at him, steady, eternal. His answer was not just words but a vow sung into the night. There is no last song. Because even when we stop, they will keep singing. And love will never end. That night, the world understood something profound. Dodger was the spark. Stay awake was the glow. The fire was resistance. The confession was truth. The unwritten chapter was survival. The reckoning was the point of no return. The revolution was freedom. The resurrection was rebirth. The exodus was release. The ascension was transcendence. The eternal flame was defiance. The rebellion of silence was thunder. The last dawn was tomorrow. But the unbroken song was eternity itself. Because love is not only fire, not only silence, not only dawn. Love is a song. And songs once sung never end. They echo. They repeat. They remain. Forever. The echo beyond time. When tomorrow kept singing. The Han River has seen countless nights, wars, revolutions, lovers' promises whispered under broken skies. But never had it carried a song like this. Even after Jungkook and Taehyung's voices faded into the quiet, the river did not return to silence. It carried their song downstream into alleys, into subways, into the very veins of the city. And from there out into the world. In Sao Paulo, children with no internet connection sang the melody by ear, their laughter rising against concrete walls. In Paris, street violinists echoed the chords, strangers gathering to hum the harmony. In Cairo, calligraphers wrote the lyrics in ink as black as night, hanging them in windows like prayers. The song refused to die. Because the song was no longer theirs. Jungkook sat later that night in a small rented room. His guitar leaned against the wall, one string broken as if exhausted from carrying truth. His hands shook, not from fear but from the weight of everything that had just happened. Taehyung lit a candle, its flame trembling in rhythm with the echo still living in the air. He looked at Jungkook, his voice soft but firm. Do you feel it? Even now it keeps singing. Jungkook's eyes glistened. But what if they silence us again? Taehyung smiled, not with defiance but with certainty. They can silence us. But they can't silence the echo. Once a song is born, it belongs to time. And time does not forget. That night, a new wave of hashtags painted the digital sky. Hashtag the echo beyond time. Hashtag songs never die. Hashtag tomorrow's inks. And something remarkable happened. For the first time, Jungkook and Taehyung didn't need to stand on a stage. Their song had become untethered, free, eternal, carried by strangers, carried by love. Children sang it before sleep. Protesters sang it in the rain. Lovers sang it at train stations. It was no longer a concert. It was no longer a rebellion. It was a future being sung into existence. And perhaps that was the truest victory of all. The final symphony. When love became forever. The world thought it had heard everything. The fire, the silence, the dawn, the unbroken song, and even the echo that refused to fade. But no one was ready for the symphony. It began not in Seoul, not in New York, not in Paris, but everywhere at once. At midnight, without announcement, screens across continents lit up in pure white. No ads. No sponsors. No corporate logos. Only a single phrase in every language. This is not the end. Then came sound. Not a single guitar, not a lone piano, but thousands of voices layered, rising, colliding, like rivers forming an ocean. Children in Manila. Choirs in Berlin. Street singers in Lagos. Every voice joined into one body. It was not just a song. It was a symphony written not by composers, but by time, by scars, by love itself. And at the very center, two voices the world knew by heart. Jungkook. Taehyung. Not standing on a stage, not facing cameras, but recorded from somewhere no one could name. Their voices entered the wave of sound not as idols, not as leaders, but as instruments in the world's orchestra. Jungkook's voice, fragile yet burning. They said the end would come. But endings are only beginnings written backwards. Taehyung's voice, deep, unshaken. They said silence was stronger than love. But tonight, love is stronger than time. The music rose like a storm, not destructive but cleansing, sweeping across cities, filling stadiums that stood empty for years, echoing through train stations, hospitals, battlefields. Soldiers paused. Children stopped crying. Lovers clutched each other tighter. The hashtags were no longer just words. They became mantras. Hashtag Final Symphony. Hashtag Love is Forever. Hashtag We Are the Song. In Seoul, candles lined the Han River like constellations fallen to earth. In New York, the Empire State Building pulsed with light in rhythm to the melody. In Rome, church bells rang not for prayer but to join the harmony. And as the world sang, Jungkook turned to Taehyung in that hidden room, his voice breaking between awe and disbelief. Do you hear it? It's bigger than us. Taehyung closed his eyes, listening as if the earth itself had become an instrument. He whispered, steady as fate. It was never ours to keep. We were only the first notes. Now it belongs to forever. The camera that caught those words shook, as if even technology was trembling. But the voices did not stop. They surged higher, louder, brighter, until the world itself seemed to breathe as one. And then silence. Not forced silence, not fearful silence. But the silence of completion, of a final note resting in eternity. In that stillness, a single line appeared across the world's screens. Love does not end. It becomes forever. That night, history did not record a concert. It recorded a symphony that belonged to no one and to everyone. A final confession carried not by two men alone, but by a world that chose to sing with them. Dodger was the spark. Stay Awake was the glow. The fire was resistance. The confession was truth. The unwritten chapter was survival. The reckoning was the point of no return. The revolution was freedom. The resurrection was rebirth. The exodus was release. The ascension was transcendence. The eternal flame was defiance. The rebellion of silence was thunder. The last dawn was tomorrow. The unbroken song was eternity. The echo beyond time was memory unending. But the final symphony was forever itself. Because love does not fade. Love does not break. Love does not end. Love becomes music. And music never dies. Epilogue, the legend we sang. When love became story and story became forever. History will never write their names beside wars or treaties. Yet what survives is not what's written but what's remembered. Children will whisper of a flame they never saw, walls will carry silence long after they fall, and songs unborn will echo across oceans. In every echo there are Jungkook and Taehyung, not idols, not products, but proof that love, once freed, becomes eternal. Centuries from now, someone by the Han River may not know scandals or contracts, only the legend, that once here love refused to fade. Perhaps they'll hum a melody they never learned, or feel warmth as if the river still sings. And in that breath, the legend lives again. Because legends don't die with their makers, they belong to the world. Jungkook once asked, "Will this fire last?" Taehyung answered, "It isn't ours anymore." And the world proved them right. Love became story. Story became song. Song became legend. And legend is forever. Love never fades. Songs never end. Legends never die.